Hey guys, welcome back to the channel where you can find all of your basic guides on Total War games. Today we are looking at each individual unit's role for Cathay. Cathay brings a unique battle mechanic called Harmony. Each unit is either a Yin or Yang unit, and when both of these types are within range of each other, they will both gain Harmony bonuses that increase their combat effectiveness. Usually Yang units are melee focused and Yin units are ranged focused, so this faction relies more on bringing a well-balanced army in order for them to perform at full strength. It should be noted that during the making of these unit breakdowns, I stated the incorrect harmony bonus values, as each unit was within range of Miao Ying, which doubles their harmony bonus. So just know that each reported harmony bonus is actually half of what I say, unless they are within range of either of the two legendary lords. Timestamps can be found in the description if you would like to skip to a particular portion of the video. First up on the legendary lords is Miao Ying, the Storm Dragon. She is a spellcaster. She gives a harmony amplifier of 100%. She's heavily armored and is a melee expert. Now we'll get into her abilities. Wrath of Storm, increasing melee attack, giving magical attacks. Transformation of Dragon, she turns into a dragon. It's not typically the best idea as she becomes a large target for ranged attacks. Earthblood, increasing hit points. Storm of Shadow, decreasing speed. Flash of Stone, increasing physical resistance. Missile Mirror, redirecting projectiles back to the unit. Regrowth. Talons of Night is a very strong stationary vortex spell. We have Mastery of Elemental Winds. Disdain of Dragons, decreasing melee attack. Life Bloom, increasing hit points. Power of Yin, decreasing armor and speed. Arcane Conduit, a 15% missile resistance, and 25% spell resistance. Next up we have Zhao Ming, the Iron Dragon. He is also a spellcaster. He provides a 100% harmony amplifier buff. He's heavily armored and is a melee expert. You'll be using this guy on your frontline engagements, or you can send him after lords and heroes. And now we'll get into his abilities. Transformation of Dragon, he turns into a dragon. Typically not the best idea, also because he'll be a huge target for missile infantry. Master of Alchemy, Plague of Rust, Glittering Robe, Final Transmutation, Dragon's Breath, Wall of Wind and Fire, Constellation of the Dragon. He also has Mastery of Elemental Winds, Strength of Yang, Arcane Conduit, Warding Iron, 15% missile resistance, and 25% spell resistance. Next up we have the Dragon-Blooded Shugengen Lord of Yin. This is a spellcaster lord providing the harmony amplifier buff of 50%. She's decent in melee combat with magical attacks. Her abilities are Scales of Celestial Court, providing 75% physical resistance in Strider. Storm of Shadows, negative 45% speed. Missile Mirror, redirecting projectiles. Talons of Night is a very strong vortex stationary skill. Cloak of Jet, providing snipe, stalk, and unspottable. Blossom Wind is a damage per second wind spell. Ancestral Warriors summons a unit of Ancestral Warriors. Encourage, Mastery of Elemental Winds, Power of Yin, Will of the Dragons, giving 4 leadership, Arcane Conduit, Jade Amulet, and a 15% missile resistance. Next we have the Dragon-Blooded Shugengen Lord of Yang. Another spellcaster with the harmony amplifier buff of 50%. Her abilities are Scales of Celestial Court, Jade Shield giving damage resistance, Dragon's Breath, a breath spell doing damage per second, Wall of Wind and Fire, a forward moving spell, Stone Ground Stance increasing mass, leadership, and giving expert charge defense, Constellation of Dragon, an explosion spell dealing damage, Might of Heaven and Earth, an augmenting spell giving flaming attacks, magical attacks, base weapon damage, armor piercing weapon damage, and melee attack. Encourage, Mastery of Elemental Winds, Will of the Dragon, increasing leadership, Strength of Yang, increasing weapon damage and armor piercing weapon damage whenever casting a spell, Arcane Conduit, Jade Amulet, and 15% missile resistance. Next up we have the Sword Infantry Lord, the Lord Magistrate, giving a harmony amplifier of 50%, decent melee combat stats. He'll be used to fight in your frontline engagements or fight other lords and heroes. And now we'll get into his abilities. Inspired Marksmanship, increasing accuracy and reload skill, Inspired Assault, increasing charge bonus and melee attack, Inspired Defense, increasing melee defense and leadership, Encourage, Kite of the Uttermost Airs, direct damage ability spell, doing damage per second to its target, Will of the Dragons, increasing leadership, Shield of Nungao, increasing missile block chance and armor in phases, Tactician, increasing reload skill and melee defense, and a 15% missile resistance. And now we'll move into the heroes of Cathay. First up, we have the Astromancer, a spellcaster lord giving a harmony amplifier buff of 25%. It has okay melee stats, but you should probably leave him out of melee combat. And now we'll get into his abilities, which come from the Lore of Heavens: Chain Lightning, Comet of Cassandra, Curse of the Midnight Wind, Wind Blast, Harmonic Convergence, Uranon's Thunderbolt, Encourage, Elemental Mastery of the Elemental Winds, Roiling Skies, Celestial Silk Robe giving spell resistance and melee defense, Cloak of Po-Mei, increasing power recharge by 60%, but is only enabled if out of melee combat, and he gets a 15% missile resistance. And lastly for the heroes is the Alchemist, a wizard hero, so you should probably keep them out of melee combat. She does have access to the Lure of Metal and some elixir spells, one increasing armor and the other increasing melee attack, and another augmenting ability giving magical attacks, base weapon damage, and missile damage. And then here are the Lure of Metal spells: Searing Doom, Plague of Rust, Gehenna's Golden Hounds, Glittering Robe, Final Transmutation, and Transmutation of Lead. Then we have Encourage, Mastery of Elemental Winds, Metal Shifting, and a 15% missile resistance. First up are the Peasant Long Spearmen. These are your low tier anti-large units. They have okay melee stats, so they should be mainly used on your flanks against cav charges. The charge reflection will help them. They are a Yang unit, and their harmony bonus gives them 12 melee defense and leadership when in range of another Yin unit. Jade Warriors will be your front line. They are decently armored and shielded, good holding stats. They also have a passive ability called Defensive Stance, giving them charge resistance if they haven't been moving. This comes in two phases. If they haven't been moving long enough, they get 25% charge resistance and 10 armor. They are a Yang unit, and their harmony bonus gives them 12 melee defense and leadership when in range of another Yin unit. Jade Warriors with halberds are your next tier of melee infantry, and these are another great holding unit, but for the flanks of your front lines to defend from cav charges. They are armored, have armor-piercing damage, and anti-large bonuses, making them excellent for this role. They do have the defensive stance as well. These are a Yang unit, and their harmony bonus gives them 12 melee defense and leadership when in range of another Yin unit. The Celestial Dragon Guard are your elite melee infantry, and they are pretty strong. They have armor-piercing damage, anti-large bonuses, and charge defense against all. These can be used as your elite front line, or used on the flanks to defend against cav charges. If you don't have enough of them, prioritize using them on the flanks first. These are a Yang unit, and their harmony bonus gives them 12 melee defense and 12 leadership when in range of a Yin unit. Peasant Archers are your basic ranged infantry. These will be used to fire into low armor melee infantry or any other backline units. Try not to waste their ammunition on heavily armored infantry, as they will not do as much damage. These are a Yin unit, and their harmony bonus gives them 24 reload skill and 12 leadership when near a Yang unit. Iron Hail Gunners are your first armor-piercing option. Their range is significantly lower than the Peasant Archers. Since they are a gunpowder unit, they will need to be placed strategically so they can have a clear line of sight to their targets. Preferably, you'll place them on the high ground. If none is available, then place them in front of your front line to get off a few volleys before moving them back. If you can, prioritize heavily armored infantry to fully utilize their armor-piercing damage. These are a Yin unit, and their harmony bonus gives them 24 reload skill and 12 leadership when near a Yang unit. Jade Warrior Crossbowmen will be your main ranged infantry. They are armored and have more range than the Peasant Archers. This makes them more ideal for getting into ranged battles with missile infantry. They do have the passive ability, Defensive Stance, which is really good for them to have, giving them increased armor in the second phase of the ability. These are a yin unit, and their harmony bonus gives them 24 reload skill and 12 leadership when near a yang unit. These are the Jade Warrior Crossbowmen shielded variant. These have more melee defense than the basic versions, and their shields make them best for dueling other ranged infantry. After volleying into the enemy melee infantry on their approach, you should switch their targets to the enemy back line. These are yin units, and their harmony bonus gives them 24 reload skill and 12 leadership when near a yang unit. Crane gunners are quite formidable ranged infantry. They are shielded and have armor-piercing damage. They have insane range, and their missiles also decrease their target's missile block chance. These guys are best used against heavily armored and shielded infantry, lords and heroes, and heavily armored cav and monstrous units. Their harmony bonus gives them 24 reload skill and 12 leadership. Last for the ranged infantry are the Celestial Dragon Crossbowmen. These are your elite ranged infantry. They are heavily armored, shielded, and have armor-piercing damage. These guys are insanely strong, and their priority targets are heavily armored infantry, lords and heroes, or monstrous units. They also have decent melee combat stats, so they are able to defend themselves quite well. Also, their harmony bonus gives them 24 reload skill and 12 leadership. Peasant Horsemen are your light cav. They are very fast and have vanguard deployment. Their melee stats are okay. These should mainly be used for disrupting the backline infantry or chasing off routing units. Do not leave them in prolonged combat with melee infantry, as they will get destroyed. They are a yang unit, and their harmony bonus gives them 12 melee defense and leadership. Jade Lancers are shock cav. They are heavily armored and shielded with anti-infantry bonuses. These will be used for your hammer and anvil tactics. You'll be cyclocharging them, leaving them in combat for 3 to 5 seconds, and then pulling them back for another charge. If left too long in combat, they will start to take quite a bit of damage. Their harmony bonus gives them 12 melee defense and leadership. The Great Longmaw Riders. These are flying cav that are heavily armored and shielded with anti-infantry bonuses. They have decent melee combat stats and cause fear. These will be used similarly to the Jade Lancers. Use them mainly for cyclocharging the backs of the enemy front lines. Since they are flying, you could also use them to take out elite ranged infantry. Their harmony bonus gives them 12 melee defense and leadership. The Terracotta Sentinel is Cathay's only monstrous unit aside from the legendary lords turning into dragons. These are heavily armored and have armor-piercing damage. It does have the cumbersome trait, so its attacks are much slower than average due to its massive and lumbering form. Also, its melee attack is magical. This guy will be used for wreaking havoc on your frontline engagements. Just be sure to keep him away from any anti-large infantry or lords and heroes. His harmony bonus gives him 12 melee defense and leadership. The Sky Lantern is Cathay's first war machine. It has a harmony amplifier, which basically increases the effectiveness of the harmony bonus by 25%. It has very low armor, so you will need to keep this away from enemy ranged infantry. It has decent missile strength and provides the ability to spot units in the forest and an extra 4 leadership bonus. If you can, keep this guy floating above your frontline engagements to give them the harmony amplifier bonus as well as provide range support. The Skyjunk is a much better version since it has fire rain rockets attached to it. It has insane range, decent missile strength, and has a bomb that it can drop on enemies below. Also, it provides the same bonuses as the Sky Lantern, just like the Sky Lantern. If you can, keep him floating above your frontline engagements to provide them buffs. The Grand Cannon will be your armor-piercing artillery option. It has great range and missile strength. This will be mainly used for taking out lords and heroes, heavily armored monstrous units, or elite cav. Its harmony bonus gives 24 reload skill and 12 leadership. The Wuxing War Compass is a spellcaster chariot. It provides a harmony amplifier buff. It should be left out of melee combat as it is a spellcaster with low melee combat stats. It has access to spells called Celestial Comet and Celestial Lightning. It has the passive ability Nexus of Elemental Winds, which gives 20% power recharge and has a 15% missile resistance. Be sure to keep him in your backline while you use his spells to bombard high-value targets. The Fire Rain rockets are your last artillery option. These have good range and missile strength. Their main targets will be elite infantry or any infantry that are clumped together, as its accuracy is not the best. Its harmony bonus gives 24 reload skill and 12 leadership. So that about wraps it up for our Cathay unit roster guide. I hope you found it useful for your Cathay campaigns, or helped you decide that Cathay is the faction for you. You can find my suggestions for early and late game army comps in the video description. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to drop a like. Also, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. On another note, if you haven't purchased the game already and want to support the channel, you can always use the links below for Warhammer 3, and this ensures a portion of your purchase goes to support the channel.